Hello and welcome to the RotoWire Esports Show. My name is Ethan Sexton, and joining me as always is DFS Chan. Chan, how's it going today?
Pretty good, man. Had the best day of my DFS life this split so far for League of Legends, so that's always a plus.
You misled me there a little. I thought you were going to say the best day of my DFS life, just full stop. But hey, best for the season. That's pretty good too. Yeah, obviously, as we look back at today, little bit two pretty slow and low scoring series in the LCK with Gen G 2-1 over KT Rolster and Red Force with a 2-1 over DRX. Really where you needed to be was on the LPL side with WE and especially with BLG. So I know that's where you landed today. So congrats to you. What did you think about the slate overall this morning?
Yeah, I mean, Team WE's that series was long over when the first game started. So I won't talk too much about that. V5 is one of the bottom feeding tier teams. So that's done. And then BLG, LGD looked really good in game one, but BLG with that experience, a squad that they have, I think they prevailed in team fights throughout like mid game and late game in game two. So I thought that was really, really good. And BLG showed some, fire that they needed to have, to kind of resurrect their split, because they started the split 0-2 and now they're 1-2. So I think they really needed that. But LGD still looked pretty good. In certain spots, Shadow looked, really good still, but I think there were some like synergy issues, but I think that's going to be, improved throughout the season. And the LCK, yeah, I mean, Gen G struggled a little bit, but KT is no joke. I mean, KT showed some signs of improvement, significant improvement. I love their early picks, in the game against Gen G, and I thought KT had a really good chance of pulling off game 3 as well, but Gen G pulled through with their experience as well. And the last one is the Nongshim versus DRX. And Nongshim, I think they're going to make the playoffs this split. They look really good. And Peanut and finally that mid laner, Gory, I like their synergy there. So.
Yeah, they're off to a really great start, right? 3-0 now. They haven't faced the stiffest of LCK competition yet, so we'll see how they match up against some of the top tier teams. But they're taking care of business against the teams you would want to see them beat if you were holding out any hope for them this season, right? So that's a good thing. Gen G just kind of doing the same as they always do. Like, they end up being one of the best teams, but they're always kind of suspect for DFS, right? They just don't really score that well. So, I'm always pretty hesitant to use them, even though they're a good team in real life. It's just they don't end up scoring real well for DFS. Yeah, I think definitely the BLG LGD series. We didn't get to record yesterday, obviously, but I think we would have said that was the most interesting of the series, and it turned out being that way. I think two comparable teams, really. Two teams that are still kind of meshing together with some new pieces, but both look like they have some decent upside. I don't know if either one will be able to crash like the top 5 of China, but I would expect both to be, in the back end of the playoffs, in my opinion. I think they both look good enough to be that kind of team.
I'll mention one more thing. I think this is very important for DFS purposes for those watching and playing DFS. So LGD, I feel like for the rest of the split, every time LGD is playing on the slate, you have to consider them, but also their opponent. So BLG coming into this morning's game, had one of the lowest combined kills per minute pace. But I figured that would be bumped up because of LGD's tendencies to, start team fights and engage in team fights. So I think I like that LGD is always, run and go. I mean, they always want to engage in team fights. So I think that's something that people need to keep in mind every time LGD is on the slate.
Yeah, definitely a good point. They've definitely been a pacey team so far this split, right? All right, so hey, jumping over to tomorrow as we get into things here for tomorrow's 4-game slate. Kick things off with T1 against Fred at Brion. I think this slate overall, I think really the only interesting matchup to me is LNG versus FPX, and we'll get to that eventually. The other 3 matchups feel pretty chalky, starting with T1 Fred at Brion.
Yeah. you already know how I feel about T1, but yeah, I mean Breon has been pretty decent this split so far. I mean, they were probably the worst team last split, but they did upset some of the top tier teams. They're notoriously known for that. And this split, I mean, they have already beat one good top tier team. So it could happen, but just looking at the data and everything else, I mean T1 eye test, I mean I think T1 should win this 2-0. But, it's early in the season. But T1 also coming off of a loss against Damwon Gaming. So I think they're going to be very motivated to take care of business here.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only, T1 are not the most expensive team on the slate. They're either second or third, depending on the role. Like Teddy, I think, is the second highest, and Carrier is also in their roles, but the rest are priced on DraftKings anyway as the third highest favorite. They're the third biggest favorite in terms of the odds on the slate. Any hesitation in using T1 tomorrow? Do you think some of these other matchups will provide a bit more for DFS purposes, or do you think T1 are a pretty safe bet?
I think if I had to choose an LCK team on the slate to play, I think T1 would definitely be at the top for me. Because just looking at the combined kills per minute pace, T1 is the top LCK team on the slate, even over Damwon Gaming. So now Freddy Breon and Afrika Freaks, which we will talk about, who will be playing against Damwon, they both, Freddy Breon and Afrika, they both are very low and slow kills per minute pace. So, and then T1 is playing against Breon, and Breon has a higher kills per minute pace than Afrika. So even that matchup helps T1's kill potential there. But T1, still they've been playing pretty fast so far in the split, but it's always cautious. You always have to be cautious to play an LCK team on the slate when there are 4 LPL teams that can just, blow up in a lot of team fights. So, but yeah, T1 is definitely my LCK team that I would like to stack if I were to play one.
Okay. Yeah, let's go right to Damwon and Afrika, just because we kind of brought them up a little. This series feels pretty similar to me to the T1 one. I think maybe Afrika are a little bit better than Freddy Breon, but we'll have to see throughout the split. You kind of already made your feelings known about this. This one feels like a 2-0 as well. And you just got done saying that, you'd prioritize T1 over Damwon, which you do get a little salary savings in most of the roles on DraftKings if you do go to T1 instead of Damwon. So really, is there much more that needs to be said about this series? I mean, it feels like a 2-0 to me.
Yeah, a 2-0. And I agree with you that Afrika is a better team than Freddy Breon, in my opinion. Afrika with Keen at the top lane, and then Leo surprisingly has been playing really well for Afrika this split. So I think there is a shot that you may be able to take for GPP purposes. I think Afrika has a better shot at upsetting Damwon Gaming than Breon upsetting T1, in my opinion, even though the odds don't indicate that. Damwon is actually the bigger favorite than T1 is. So yeah, I mean, I like Afrika. If you are, looking for a sneaky GPP pick, I like Afrika. But at the same time, this is a very important point. Their combined kills per minute pace is very, very low. Yeah. So they average 0.44 kills per minute in all of their games, and then 0.43 in their wins. So even when they win, it's very low. I mean, that's contrasting to T1's 0.87 and then 0.91 in their wins. So that's a drastic, difference that if you're considering Afrika to choose.
Yeah, I agree with you. If one of Freddy Breon or Afrika were to win, I think it would be Afrika. But I don't expect either to win, so I'm not really too worried about it either way. And I think your point about Afrika just being such a slow team so far this split. I mean, they're 2-0. They've won both their matchups, but they're not scoring very well for DFS purposes. So even as like an underdog, low-owned pick, it's hard to get real excited about them just because even if they do win, it's probably going to end up being a lower scoring affair. So the upside really doesn't feel like it's there. all the way around for Afrika, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean for LCK, yeah, I mean I have removed Breon and Afrika from my player stacking pool, because they're both very slow. Even Breon, I know they beat a top tier team, but they're also very slow with 0.56 combined kills per minute. So around 0.5 is very bad for DFS purposes. So I'm just removing those two underdogs from the LCK from my player pool today.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, I think. Speaking of teams you can remove from your stacking pool, let's jump into TT versus Top Esports. TT, I think you can get rid of as well, taking them right off the slate. Top Esports are the biggest favorite on this slate as a whole, and by a wide margin. I think they're minus 2,000 favorites. Next closest was Damwon at 900. So pretty big discrepancy there. Top Esports, they're going to keep in their top laner that isn't 369. I forget how to pronounce his name. But in this particular matchup, it really doesn't bother me at all that he's playing. I just think Top Esports will be way too much for TT tomorrow. And I think Top Esports, coming off a loss in their first series last week against JDG, will probably be looking to prove a point. And I feel like Top Esports are probably the favorite that I would want to prioritize the most on this slate. Do you agree with that, or do you think it'll be a bit too much of a cakewalk for them?
Yeah, I agree. And Thunder Talk averages a very high combined kills per minute as well, even in their losses. Like you said, they're winless this split so far. They're 0-4 in games. But they average 0.95 combined kills per minute. So that's really fast. And that's the second highest on the slate. So the only reason I would consider, I think Top Esports will win 2-0, most likely. The talent and the skill discrepancy between the two rosters is enormous. So yeah, even with Qingtian starting at the top lane for Top Esports, I like Top Esports' chance. Now, the only reason why I would consider is Thunder Talk as my GPP play is because of that pace. So in case they do upset Top Esports, they're most likely gonna win and rack up a lot of kills there. So in case they upset, it's happened before, with Breon and earlier in the split, I think with one of the top tier LPL teams, I cannot remember, but it's happened before, so it can happen.
I was gonna say, we just saw it on Monday with OMG right against Invictus Gaming. It's sort of a similar situation, although I think Top Esports will prove to be a better team than IG in the long run this year. But it's sort of a similar situation where you have a team that doesn't win very often as an underdog, but when they do win, they end up scoring well, which is exactly what we saw with OMG on Monday, right? In their few wins, you brought this up after we recapped it, in their few wins in the spring, they scored great, and that's what ended up happening Monday. So I agree, based on the metrics, the combined kills per minute that you brought up, if Thunder Talk were to win, they'd probably score quite well, whereas a team like Afrika or Fred at Breon, if they're going to pull a big upset, they probably won't score well. And even if you have them and they win, there's potential that you still don't really cash very well just because of the slower pace. So I think Thunder Talk are throw in the fact that they have the pace compared to those other underdogs and that they are probably going to be the lowest owned of that group. I think they make for the best GPP play on the slate, even though we expect that they're going to get trounced 2-0.
Yeah, that's our nugget of the day. I think that's it exactly. Yeah. So if you're very well put.
Yeah, if you're going for straight up leverage differential, I think they're the play. But I don't know if I'll go there because I won't make enough lineups. But it's worth a shot potentially. That brings us to the last game that we haven't talked about. I think this is the most intriguing game on the slate, the closest. The odds reflect that. We got LNG up against FPX. Both teams, Fun Plus Phoenix are 2-0 on the year, 4-1 in their game score, and then LNG are a perfect 3-0, 6-2 in their game score. Pretty close matchup, honestly. LNG have looked really good so far this split. We saw them coming off a big win on Tuesday against JD Gaming. So that was a nice upset for them, showing that they can play with the big boys. What do you think about this matchup? I think it's kind of a tricky one to call. I know we both really like FPX in general, but how do you feel about them in this matchup?
Yeah, I love this matchup for FPX. I know LNG is coming off of a very, good wins. And Icon, the mid laner for LNG, has been playing lights out. I mean, he's been playing probably one of the best mid laners in the LPL so far in the split. And Ale, usually in LNG, when they won games last split, they won it through Light and Iwandi bottom lane. But now they're showing that they can win in multiple ways. So, yeah, I mean, I like FPX here, but LNG is no joke so far in the split. If I look at the individual matchups, I mean, Doinb, we mentioned this last time we talked about FPX, but he liked to get involved in a lot of different team fights, and he helps out with other lanes. He's more of a supportive, mid. He likes to roam and help out for the team and stuff. So it's not something that, he scares me a bit, like as an assassin that he plays or anything like that. So I think Icon, as well as good of a form that he is in, matches very well against Doinb. Now, the difference maker, in my opinion, would be the top lane. I know at this meta, the top laners have been performing very well, and it's very important that the top laners perform well for their teams to win. And Nuguri, as he's been playing probably the top, the best LPL player in the split so far, regardless of positions. I think he won the player of the week last week for the LPL. He's going up against Ale. Ale has been playing well too, but I just think that Nuguri is much better, and he's been in very great form. Now, the worry that I have about FPX is the bottom lane, LWX and Crisp. They're going up against Light and Iwandi, who are very solid as well, and they've been playing together for a long time. And so do LW and Crisp. But now I'm only elaborating on the matchups because this is going to be a close match in my opinion. But I think ultimately FPX will end up winning it. So.
Yeah, I think I can get on board with that, and I don't know if it's slight bias because I'm a fan of FPX. I mean, I give LNG a pretty good shot to win this, though, so I can't fault anyone that wants to go to LNG. They've looked great so far this split. Their first win was against Victory 5, who's going to be a bottom dweller, but then they beat BLG, who we just talked about when we first started the video, as a team that we like to probably make the playoffs this year. So that was a good win for them, 2-1. And then, JD Gaming are a top team in the league for the past couple of years, and they beat them 2-1 as well. So I really think the form advantage goes to LNG. I mean, FPX are undefeated as well, but their wins are against a sweep of Rogue Warriors and then 2-1 against Ultra Prime. So, man, the form advantage kind of goes to LNG. I mean, I don't know. That's why I think this is such a tough matchup to call. I mean, I think on paper I lean FPX as well, but really can't fault anyone that wants to take a shot on LNG tomorrow. I think they're definitely in a great spot that they could come away with a win. This series kind of feels like the one that's going to be a 2-1 to me. Just hard to call either way, but I would definitely, make a couple lineups, and I would play both sides of this matchup. I think think it'll be pretty good for scoring purposes. Not sure if you agree or not. And then either side really has a chance to win. So just kind of depends on, where you want to go. But that's a tough one to call for this slate.
Yeah, definitely a tough one to call. But LNG, they play on a bit slower side for an LPL team. So, but FPX does tend to play fast. So if you think, that game is going to be dictated by the FPX, but LNG comes, off of a win at the end, out with a win at the end, then LNG would be a good pick. But I don't know, like LNG is averaging 0.66 combined kills per minute, and that's, a little bit lower than Top Esports, Thunder Talk, and FPX. FPX is 0.89, so there's a bit of a difference there. Now LNG, if they do upset FPX, I think, like I said, FPX will, engage in a lot of team fights to get back in the game. And so that could produce a lot of kills. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think both teams are viable for DFS purposes. And Icon is probably a must-have, in my opinion, if you are to play LNG players.
Yep, I agree with that. Yeah, I think that kind of covers everything. Anything else you wanted to bring up before we go, Chan?
No, I think, like you said, I mean, LCK is most likely going to be, a chalk with T1 and Dom1 Gaming, but Africa definitely has a shot, in my opinion. Yep. And then top esports and FPX should win. But yeah, LNG, can definitely, definitely has the ability and good form that they're in to beat FPX. Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is, yeah, I mean, if you are a GPP player, feel free to play Thunder Talk. I think, it's happened before, and early in the split, it's the best time, to pull, to choose an underdog like this at really great odds. So, and the leverage that you will have. So yeah, I mean, if you're a good GPP player, please consider TT. And then, yeah, like Ethan's probably gonna talk about this, but yeah, we're also available in the Discord channel. I know that LEC and the LCS are coming up on Friday. So if you are interested in knowing more about those leagues, even though we don't make videos, we drop some nuggets there as well. So feel free to join us there.
Yeah, and if you want to check out the Discord, you can go to rotowire.com/try. If you're not a member already, you can get a free 10-day trial, no credit card required. And then once you sign up for the website, you can go to rotowire.com/chat, and there's information on how to join the Discord that Chan mentioned. Like he said, I mean, our schedules are too busy. Sometimes, like yesterday, we can't even do an LPL LCK video. So we're not going to be doing LCS and LEC videos, but we will be talking about the slates in the Discord if anyone wants to. So feel free to check out those links below. They're down there. You can check out the website and join up on the Discord and come in and chat with us. Other than that, if you could leave us a like and subscribe to the channel, that'd be awesome. And we'll be back tomorrow to talk about Friday's slate. So Chan, thank you as always, my friend, and good luck to you tomorrow.
You too, Ethan. Thanks.